Yeah. Why?
He's looking good. Thank you. He's a tough bird. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, that's crazy. Okay. No. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Doing well. Did you guys get thunder and lightning today? It was crazy. Yeah, just a little bit here. I think that'd be good. Paging Counselor Merryday to his seat. Let's do that. That'll be perfect. Thank you. All right. All right. I have 7-Eleven. I want to apologize to Mr. Taylor for being tardy. And we did them in the hall. And we are going to call this meeting to order. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Urban. Counselor Heinck. Counselor Lammerman.
Here.
Counselor Merriday.
Here.
Counselor Settlemeyer.
Here.
Counselor Wilson.
Here.
Mayor Soulsby.
Here. Thank you. Items to be added to the agenda. I see none. Special present. Oh, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and forgive me. Items to be added to the agenda. I see none. Special presentations, Rain Catalyst Annual Update. City Manager, Mr. Sauerwein.
Well, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. Rachel, Brian, why don't you come on up and I'll just let you introduce yourselves.
Welcome.
Okay, perfect. And I don't need to touch anything, right? Probably better if I don't touch anything. Thank you so much, Mayor Soulsby and councilors. We're really excited to be here tonight. My name is Rachel Jagoda Brunette. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Rain Catalysts. I've been with the organization for just over a year now, and I'm really pleased to have a chance to share our work and also have a chance to introduce my colleague, Brian Brown, who will be stepping up to the mic and sharing information in just a moment. For those of you who who may not be familiar, anyone who's watching, Rain Catalyst is a nonprofit that's been operating in Oregon for about 10 years. And our core DNA is around enabling and supporting both entrepreneurs, small businesses, and entrepreneurial communities. So we're really excited to be here in Cottage Grove to see the transformation that's been happening, obviously with the Main Street project, with the growth of new businesses and companies, and also just the continued success of the companies that have made this community such a special place to live and work. Next slide, please. So thank you for inviting us. Next slide. Just very briefly about the way that we work. We have basically two separate trains of work. One of them is technical assistance for entrepreneurs, and that's what you'll hear a bit about from Brian in a minute. This is the on the ground, understanding what people need and providing them support, whether that's education on how to set up a bookkeeping practice, or figuring out how to do digital marketing, or determining how to keep your business going when the street in front of you is being ripped up for a long period of time. We also work with communities to help make supportive environments for entrepreneurs. A lot of places, both in Oregon and around the Pacific Northwest, have been seeing a huge amount of change recently after the pandemic, with changes in everything from national policy to tariffs and trade and things like that, and really want their entrepreneurs to be successful and continue contributing both to the tax base of the community, but also to the culture that makes these cities and counties nice places to live. And so we work very closely to both share the voice and the needs of entrepreneurs, as well as bring in our learnings from the other communities where we work to help make sure that people have access to the resources they need, and cities understand what they might need in order to both host new entrepreneurs and support the businesses who are already here. Next slide, please. So, again, our DNA is around connection, looking at programs, people, physical assets, and also capital, which really drives a lot of what entrepreneurs are looking for. And I might have us just skip through a couple of slides here so we can get to the meat of this. And we can obviously share this with the council. Maybe next one, and one more. Partnership is also a really important part of what we do. There's a lot of fantastic organizations, both around the state and around the country, that support entrepreneurs, but a lot of times either communities or companies don't know how to access them. And so a major part of what we do is provide those sort of white glove handoffs to these organizations that have assets and resources that people need. And we maintain those relationships within our organization so that we know what everyone else is doing and can also make those connections immediately and based on the specific needs of entrepreneurs. Next slide, please. And we'll go one more. So our impact to date, we're actually tracking right now via survey job creation numbers locally, but you can see here that as of a couple of years ago, the impact has been pretty significant, in large part because of our team members like Brian, who've been working with entrepreneurs, identifying things like the amount of capital that they need, or the types of professional services they need, and making direct connections to those resources so that they can create jobs, raise money, and make their businesses successful. Next slide, please. So here we're getting into the meat of it a little bit about what's next. One of the exciting developments that's just come up in the last month or so is that RAIN is going to be taking over leadership of the Cascades West Innovation Hub, which is a Business Oregon funded program to support both innovation-driven companies and traded sector businesses in regions around the state. And so we are going to be leading the effort for Lane, Lynn, Benton, and Lincoln counties, and helping both identify entrepreneurs who either have products that perhaps could move into a traded sector space, commercial packaged goods, food and beverage, others, as well as innovation-driven companies that are creating products and businesses that have high growth potential, and bringing together a huge coalition of organizations to support their growth right here in the region. We're also digging into some of the specific challenges that entrepreneurs are facing at the moment around supply chain, transportation, dealing with disaster-related funding, and making sure they have the support they need. We are building our capacity around Spanish language programming based on interest from the communities we serve, and also building out connections to new capital providers and statewide organizations that can address the needs of entrepreneurs. Next slide, please. So with that, I'm really pleased to introduce Brian Brown, who's the venture catalyst for South Lane County. He lives here in Cottage Grove. He's an entrepreneur himself, and he's going to share a little bit about the work that's been going on here locally in the last year.
Thanks. I'm Brian Brown. I do live here in Cottage Grove, probably since, let's see, 1977. So I've been around for a little while. Been working with a lot of the local entrepreneurs, mainly in the marketing space, their online space, to help them with their digital footprints and how they can move their businesses forward online, be found by more people. We've been doing a lot of educational programs, working with the chamber. We've been having some educational nights, usually right before this meeting, down at the chamber offices, and we get 6 to 10 people come in to have a problem. We get out our laptops, and we go around the room, and everybody, contributes to trying to figure out what the issue is for each. And then we come back and we figure out what we're going to do next time. Everybody goes home, gets homework, we come back. So we've moved away from some of our bigger network groups to a little more focused network groups. We kind of go to some of the restaurants and local businesses here on Main Street, use those as our meeting places, so that way we can have people come in, support the business while we're there. And then do a little bit more one-on-one mentor coaching in smaller groups, to where they could come in if they don't want to talk about it in a public space. They could come in and, ask me a question that's not going to get overheard by somebody down the road or somebody else in the group that they're worried about, or they're just kind of shy. They're just, okay, I want to work on this. So we're working, what's the next big one that's coming up? I think one of the next bigger things we're going to work on is getting a grant writing presentation through the chamber, so that way a lot of the nonprofits in the area can learn to come in and get the grants filed that they need to have access to help support their ongoing needs. That's the big one that we're going to work with Kelly Nonprofit. So
That's yes.
Yeah, we're going to work through Kelly Nonprofit, and then if not, Rachel's going to volunteer her knowledge to come help me do that. So that's the main things that I have going on.
Yeah, so just to kind of wrap up, so a lot of the work that we do in rural communities is really based on individual connections. And so we have people like Brian who live here in the community, so that people can put a face to a name. And even if they are doing online interactions, going to Zoom webinars, attending virtual accelerator programs and things like that, they know that there's someone who really understands the context here. And I think Cottage Grove is a great example, because only because Brian is here does he get the impact of what's happening with Main Street and what companies would need. And so we really do work hard to maintain those connections and make sure that the vision that we're trying to bring to bear reflects what the needs of the communities are. The next slide. Do you want to talk just very briefly about what's coming up specifically at some of these events?
Sure. Let's see, what do we have coming up? Like every Wednesday at Concert in the Park. I know you've been next door to me, sitting there occasionally. I set up a tent, we're usually right next to the chamber, and make it open for the public. They can come in. They want to find out what RAIN does. They want to get help on a particular thing. I just kind of make it open to the public, because that's a good window to get a lot of eyes on what RAIN can do. We do, as I said, over at like Pour 818, we do every couple of weeks, we do a coffee meetup. Come in, I'll buy you a cup of coffee. We'll talk about your problem. Let's figure out how to solve it. Where do you need to go? Who do I need to connect you with? And then again, we're working with the chamber about usually every 4 to 6 weeks. We have an educational night. They pick the topic and I go and research it, and I bring in a presentation for them. They get to take home handouts. They get homework to follow up on, and then they can contact me for any help that they need afterwards.
So I think, in conclusion, first of all, we're happy to answer any specific questions. But really what we're trying to bring to this region, whether it's Cottage Grove or the surrounding areas, not just starting businesses and being able to bean count job creation, but really looking at creating supportive foundations for people to build wealth, to build a reason to stay here in the community over multiple generations and have some sense of agency in their own economic futures. That's why entrepreneurship is so important to RAIN. And we see it as being even more important in these rural towns because so often people are left at the mercy of companies that are coming in and out or jobs that come and go away. But when someone is forming something that's really rooted here in the community and grown here, there's so much more longevity to the work and the wealth that is created, that it just tends to lead to a much more long-lived prosperity. So with that, happy to answer questions about what RAIN does or what's coming up, or our backgrounds, anything like that. Thank you.
Any questions? Counselor Urban.
Thank you for being here tonight. I think it is important work and nothing to give hope for people and inspiration to take the chances and risks. I wonder if you can speak to some success stories around here, things that are, speak to what Cottage Grove offers that could be bolstered to help these efforts.
Do you want to talk about a couple specific entrepreneurs you've worked with?
Yeah. I know I'm working kind of behind the scenes long-term with the folks at the Coast Pork Farm stand. A lot of the things that they want to do in that incubator space is definitely something RAIN would like to get behind because we can, there's a pop-up area that they want to do. They want to do cooking, teaching classes in the background, and the number of entrepreneurs that I can funnel into another entrepreneur has been helpful. There's been somebody that went in there already and did a test kitchen and managed to get some good information for what they wanted to do, how broad their menu could be before they bought their food truck. So just recently, Biddle Brew had a problem. They had an electrical malfunction. We were there the next day to make sure that they were okay to get back on their feet. They had already contacted somebody in Pleasant Hill, luckily. Was able to replace their equipment, had somebody fix their air conditioner. They didn't have to buy a new truck. They weren't going to go out of business. That was really nice to see. The Greenery Sprouts place in the Holloman building, they came into RAIN, brought in their samples, asked some questions about how to market themselves. Now they've got their space in the building. They're having people walk in and they're able to buy things. And they went from an idea to actual storefront pretty quick. So it was nice to see that transition happen. Myself, I met RAIN 2.5 years ago. We worked through some things on how to launch our business, and we've been going ever since 2020. So it's been nice to be able to weave into RAIN after the fact.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. My question is, you mentioned grants and you were talking about nonprofits. Is there also the ability for you guys to help out in the private sector?
Yes. So one of the things that we're planning on doing is helping companies that are applying for grants. And obviously that it's a very different structure than what you see in the nonprofit sector. There tend to be smaller grants. They tend to often be tied to either very specific business needs, maybe an infrastructure thing, beautification, or be pretty small. And so I think one of the first things that we do is help people identify whether a grant is even right for them. Sometimes, getting a grant is great because it's free money, but it also can be seen by a future funder, a bank, or an investor as, a sign that you couldn't get money the traditional way. So we really want people to be intentional about how they're getting grants. And then, but after that, there's writing the application or the proposal, knowing, where to go. And that's something that I've been trying to bring in a little bit more. My background is in philanthropy. I spent almost a decade as a program officer for a private foundation. So have read many grant applications and worked with a lot of grant makers. And so, one of the things I think we're looking to do within the entire team is identify some specific skill sets that we all bring that maybe aren't naturally aligned with our titles and making sure that we can get those out to entrepreneurs. So I think we will be helping, people look for and apply for grants that are appropriate for them.
See, that's interesting. I didn't know that that could affect you getting a business loan in the future.
It can and it can't. It's just something that, anytime someone sees money availability, naturally you think like, this is fantastic. But it's always just so important over the course of a business to really think about what message is this sending to the future me who's going and trying to, achieve some kind of goal. Is it going to be helpful, or is it actually going to hurt in
Hinder
the
you.
long run?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Question?
No?
Okay.
Oh, Counselor Merida.
And I believe there's a business challenge in the works as well.
Yeah, I know, last year, was that? Yeah, last year we partnered with the SBDC on that. And I think, I know that there's some conversations going forward, and we will be working on that. So I don't have specific details, but I know that the last one was really successful and that the participants got a lot out of it. So we definitely want to help do that sort of thing. And it's actually something with the Innovation Hub too. We may think about expanding those sorts of opportunities if people are finding them to be useful in terms of getting their businesses up and running and growing.
Well, thank you for taking your time to come before council tonight, and the business community appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
again for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, next special presentation. Dyrell Burleson Trail Proclamation. Whereas Dyrell Burleson is a retired middle distance runner, a historic figure, and a former resident and athlete from Cottage Grove, Oregon. And whereas Burleson is a member of the Cottage Grove High School Hall of Fame, and in 1958 set the 1,500 meters record in track and field. And whereas Burleson was the University of Oregon's first track and field scholarship athlete, competing for the school's legendary coach, Bill Bowerman. And whereas Burleson was the second American runner to break the 4-meter mile and the first to run a sub-4-minute mile at Hayward Field. And whereas Burleson was a 3-time NCAA champion at the University of Oregon, who twice held the U.S. outdoor 1,500-meter record and the U.S. outdoor mile record. And whereas Burleson competed in the 1,500 meters at the 1960 Rome and 1964 Tokyo Olympic Games. And whereas in 2008, Burleson was inducted into the Cottage Grove High School Athletics Hall of Fame, and in 2010 was inducted into the National Track and Field Hall of Fame. And now, therefore, I, Candace Soulsby, Mayor of Cottage Grove, Oregon, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby recognize Dyrell Burleson for his accomplishments and legacy, a middle distance runner from Cottage Grove, Oregon, and do hereby name a portion of his training route as Dyrell Burleson Trail. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Cottage Grove to be affixed this 25th day of August 2025. And now we'll have one of the great Cottage Grove coaches ever, Bud Taylor, accept this award for Dyrell.
What do they have to say something about workout?
graduated from high school in 1960. I was the slowest runner in the school in my grade. And I was a worship. And so this is coming from what another people who's outstanding stuff. You have no idea how people have been the history. Just tremendous hard work for very little award and recognized all over the United States and even in Europe at one time. And I'm going to say it again, that my coach, not good after I retired here from high school. And I started coaching at high school when I was 15. Actually, 15, I was teaching swimming. When I was going to the U of O. And I just learned my stuff mostly from books, that kind of stuff. But I will tell you that Tony Wilson, I can't stand me out there at the end of the trail, on Cedar Track, and him running around just as smooth as still. Set state records after state record after state record against big schools. Against Crestwood, I don't mean against Saginaw, those kind of schools. I mean, new schools. I mean, high school. And they were really outstanding athletes. It's just super. And he was instrumental in Northern Franklin. When he went there, he put in the stuff. I'll tell you, he was really Solar College Academy, Mr. Academy. Mr. Academy ran classes in the middle of the year with a whole football team that couldn't play basketball. And so they're getting the court. Which I wish we still had. In fact, if they had the work for it, they could get it with something. But anyhow, I just, whatever. Wonderful. All the great things God said. I mean, tremendous great things. He's the best example. I continue to have a friendship with Lyle as days because both of his girls were competitive swimmers. I was seeing at meetings and seeing all around. Coming back to instrumental the Oregon Track Club. How many of you been at that big stadium? How many of you been? Y'all didn't be there with guys like Darwin. Mr. Ken was one of the main officials to put that together. We taught here at High School for years and years and years and years. Back in fact, after the football season, he had a 6-period, 6 class. And he had as many as 100 boys. He taught them all bison. They had as many as 100 boys. I was one of them. Probably hit from up with that first, but we had some games pretty wild. And when I say pretty wild, I really mean one. I mean the games that if you play these kind of games now, coach get with. Can't do it anymore because why don't get hurt easy? They get hurt really easy. And so I started with clear back over 30 years ago, just mentioned in town here. We're gonna do something about Dial Road. Well, let it go, another, and another year. Just calculated it. But about 2 years ago, I got some, you know, I touched a couple people, you know, that, are putting some stuff together. And so there's gonna be recognition of Darrell, it's gonna be a trail, it's gonna be over by the new ones. So, I tell you, there was nothing more that I would say, except I've seen work ethic that was unbelievable. And we have a tendency in our life to put work ethic down. Like, you know, don't work hard, work smart. That's it. Eliminated half the job right there. And a lot of it actually good work. And the main thing was the guy that was, he loved him. He absolutely loved him. Praise. I'd be up there stumbling along, getting in the way, and he'd come and he'd say, hey, you gotta slow down, this is the wrong thing. Hey, you gotta slow down, you gotta speed up, you gotta do. And it seems so wonderful, wonderful. I don't think it's changed, most of them for him. And for Mr. Ken, there's no joke about him putting classes with 100 kids in, and all of them having a good time. Came in the back and get thrown up and then there was blood nose every week. Can't do that now, because you don't see. You know, all kinds of things.
Okay, Coach. Coach, that is exactly the speeches he would give to his swimmers, and that's why they were amazing athletes. And we appreciate you so much, Coach Taylor. Thank you for accepting this award for Dyra. Well, we do have some city business.
They would call up and call. Or you? It was different time.
Thank you, Coach. All right, no one has signed up to speak tonight. Public hearings, I see none. Consent agenda. Consent agenda. Counselor Irvin.
Mayor, I'd move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion with the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Resolutions and ordinances. Item A, ordinance amending chapter 8.12 of the Cottage Grove Municipal Code, establish chronic nuisance property provision. City Attorney Carrie Conley.
It's on. We could talk a really long time about this. I'm not sure if we need to. We've had this come before council at least 3 times. I think this is now 4th presented for adoption. I do know that at the last meeting, we tabled it and moved the conversation to this meeting. Just a short summary is that council expressed an interest in ordinances that other municipalities have on their books. I think it's been discussed and made really clear it's not intended to target any type of business, any type of property, any particular property owner. It's a tool for staff to have in their belt in order to try to bring multiple different types of properties into compliance with other provisions of the city's code. And there are numerous off-ramps throughout the ordinance. There's a number of notice provisions. There's a number of opportunities and times that property owners can enter into compliance agreements, voluntary compliance agreements with the city in an effort simply to address any kind of a chronic nuisance that's occurring on their property. It could be crime oriented, it could be appearance oriented, it could be public health oriented. Those types of chronic nuisances are outlined in the chronic nuisance definition of chronic nuisance property. We worked with, so I mentioned we worked with staff, the police department, public works department, your municipal judge, and a litigator in my firm, Truman Stone, who has done litigation on behalf of the city in the past. And I've tried to incorporate everybody's input so far. We also received a good amount of public comment, and I addressed those points that were raised. Some of them were needed edits and some of them were helpful clarifications. And those changes also have been made. So before you, I think, is an ordinance that represents a really good compilation of input from your community and your staff and your experts. But I'm happy to address any particular questions you might have or any outstanding issues that you might still be concerned about that we've discussed previously. Oh, I'm so sorry. And I did mention to Madam Mayor, just in advance of the meeting, the ordinance is correct. The table of contents in Exhibit A references a 8.12.360 private rights of action. We took that section out. That was a confusing section and it was problematic to the municipal judge. We just removed it. So no, there's nothing that's changed in the code language or the ordinance that's being proposed, but just that table of contents.
Any questions? Council, Councilor Urban.
What ordinance number would this be?
Ordinance number 3196.
Councilor Urban.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the council adopt ordinance number 3196, amending Chapter 8.12 of the Cottage Grove Municipal Code to establish chronic nuisance property provisions with the edit as mentioned by city attorney, striking from the table of contents, section 8.12.360 private rights of action.
We have a motion. We have a motion with the second. Any discussion? Councilor Merryday.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, I had some concerns, but as reading through the final version, particularly I note in section 812.290, section C, and 812.300, section B, and in 12.320, section B, as our council mentioned, there's many steps that a business or affected property can come to an agreement to abate the issues that have been raised and enter into an agreement with the city. There also is a good clarification what happens to tenants in a affected property if they are part of the problem or if they have been left out of the process by the landlord. I think their rights are clearly defined in the ordinance, and I can fully support this ordinance.
Councilor Sotomayor.
I did request from council some examples of like situations where this could be used and applied in the future. Is that something that is going to be shared at this time?
Good evening again, Your Honor, and members of the council. Actually, the chief and I had a conversation about this afternoon, so I'll ask him to weigh in on this.
Chief?
Thank you, Mayor, Counselor Sotomayor. So yeah, one of the things that, and just kind of looking at the ordinance right here, one of the things that I would point to under the section 8.12.270, under the definitions, if you go down to B where it talks about chronic nuisance property, it gives you some definitions about what examples could be. And so just to kind of build off of that, where I see these things coming into play and where this could be something that we use. One of the things that we've talked about is arrests for criminal activity that continue to happen at a certain property over and over again. And so that's one of the things that's listed specifically in the ordinance. And that's one of the things where I could see that would be something where we would need to step in and potentially intervene or help the property owner get their property back into compliance, and to kind of help some of the criminal activity or some of the unwanted behavior at that particular property. So that's really, one of the big ones that I look at. One of the other things that I know we've discussed in previous meetings, we've talked a little bit about potential for possible drug houses where there's either sale or possession, usage, all of those things of illegal controlled hard drugs. So that would be another example where we would do this. Some of the other issues that may come up, chronic noise violations, which would be under our city ordinance code. Those houses where we continually get calls for our officers to respond to complaints of excessive noise all hours of the night. And, we've exhausted, other methods of trying to contact them, giving them warnings, issuing them maybe a citation for an ordinance violation. And then at some point we may get back to this nuisance ordinance and use that as another tool to try to help get that property back into compliance, or that property owner or the occupants back into compliance, and help curb that behavior. So the house is no longer what we would classify a nuisance in the neighborhood. So.
Anyone? Counselor Merriday?
Chief, I also note that there's a provision for people squatting in buildings as well. So this could be invoked in that case.
Yes. And I think, Mayor, Councilor Merriday, I think in that instance, that is one of those things where it could be very valuable to the people that own the property that are looking for some assistance. This could help give us a tool to help intervene and provide them with some assistance, or at least to be able to hold those people accountable who are there unlawfully.
Counselor Urban?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I want to share appreciation for the work that's gone into hearing from the community, hearing from council members, the concerns being raised. I shared a concern anytime we have something where there's additional real teeth to make leverage to change behavior. There's also the potential to have it misused. And I always try to put myself on the other side of something and say, what if this was directed at me in a way that wasn't fair? And I think what we have before us is a really good balance, and something that I feel I can support. And so I appreciate the work that went into that, because that took some time. So thank you.
Director Stewart?
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a couple other situations where this code provision could have possibly been beneficial to the city. We had a situation out on South 6th Street where we had a house that was in a very chronic state. The police were there regularly for drug-related activity, solid waste, theft of items. We had to go and get creative with legal counsel and work with the property owner. It was an absentee property owner that lived in Florence. And the city actually rented the structure from her so that we could take control of the site and be able to manage that type of activity, where this would have been probably a better vehicle, because if we hadn't been able to rent the building from the house from her, we would have still been probably struggling with trying to figure out how to deal with that.
We have another situation here in the community right now. We have some folks living in a building. The neighbors are continually all hours being disrupted. The owner of the house passed away. Now the estate is in limbo land, waiting for the state to, give direction for that estate. While this activity still is bothering the neighbors, with us very little to do except for probably some police out on a regular basis without much resolve. So this actually, those are a couple instances where this could potentially give the city tools to be able to bring some relief to the neighbors and stop the negative activity that's taking place.
I just want to say that I am so appreciative of the Oregon Mayors Association and getting to know the other mayors, because that's how this ordinance actually came to my attention, was the mayor of the Dalles, and that they had this going on and implemented. And, it's just such a valuable thing to actually be able to speak with the other mayors. And that's how I heard about the Wild Dogs. And, it's just like that interaction that you get with other leadership and what's working for other cities, and to find out that other cities have had this on their books for ever. I mean, it's just, this is nothing new for an ordinance, and just the fact that Cottage Grove did not have it, just anything that we can do to protect ourselves. It's not like we have to use it, but if we need to, it's there. And so I am very appreciative to city staff and to legal counsel and our city manager for really moving this forward. And I am in full support. I would entertain a motion. Oh, we already did. All right. So Counselor Lammerman.
Madam Mayor, Council, this primarily for the city attorney. I've heard a couple of mentions of squatters and things along those lines. Where would this ordinance coincide with squatters' rights and all that? What I can't say it would supersede those laws and stuff they have in the state, but would this basically be moot when it came to squatters' rights or
Are
something?
you, if you mean unlawful camping protections on public property that the state has enacted, is that what you mean?
No, there's also the rights of somebody living in a deceased homeowner's house and not leaving, or an abandoned old hospital, people moving in, they technically have rights if they've been there long enough.
So that would all be analyzed in advance to determine, is there unlawful activity happening? And does the activity that's happening there give rise to a chronic nuisance? So I can't say offhand that various circumstances shouldn't be enforced under this code, because if somebody actually has a lawful right to be in attendance, they still can't be doing unlawful activity. So you might focus on some other aspect of their activity in the property beyond, whether they're there lawfully or not. Are they creating a chronic nuisance? Does that help? Okay.
Thank you. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Merida,
Aye.
Counselor Settlemeyer,
Aye.
Counselor Urban,
Aye.
Counselor Lammerman,
Aye.
Counselor Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Soulsby.
Aye. Motion carries unanimous. Item B, ordinance repealing ordinance number 2863, create an economic improvement district and a business improvement district, and amending ordinance 2907, 2954, 2997, 3037, 3067, 3075, and 3148, extending created districts. City Attorney, Ms. Conley.
Hi, well, I'm probably not the best speaker on the need for this ordinance. My understanding from staff, and I believe testimony that you've received has been that representatives of these districts are requesting that it be dissolved, that they be dissolved. And so upon direction of council and staff, I created the ordinance that's before you this evening. It is a very simple ordinance. There's no funding remaining. There are no projects remaining. There's no interest, and there was no process in the ordinances or state statute. So it's just a simple repeal ordinance for your consideration this evening.
Entertain a motion. Counselor Lammerman.
The ordinance number would be 3197, right?
Yes.
Okay, I move to adopt ordinance number 3197, repealing ordinance number 2863, creating an economic improvement district and a business improvement district, and amending ordinances 2907, 2954, 2997, 3037, 3067, 3075, and 3148, extending the created districts.
Second.
We have a motion with a second. Is there any discussion? I see none. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Wilson,
Aye.
Counselor Settlemyre,
Aye.
Mayor Soulsby,
Aye.
Counselor Merida,
Aye.
Counselor Irvin,
Aye.
Counselor Lammerman.
Aye.
Concerns from council? Counselor Wilson.
Just an update on the upcoming 2027 celebration of the Wall Dogs and the 50th anniversary of Animal House being filmed here in the area. I've had some contact with some of the band members that participated in the parade scene of the movie. And I have gotten very positive response from them that they're interested in participating in whatever celebration that comes about for that.
Wonderful. Is that Churchill Marching Band?
That is Churchill Marching Band.
Nice to hear. Anyone else? Counselor Lammerman.
Couple quick things. Madam Mayor, Council, thank you. Real quick for Mr. Stewart, the splash pad broke. What was it that broke?
There, Councilor Lammerman, it was a breaker in the timer box that activates the pad. When the pad is triggered, it relays to this timer breaker system, and the breaker that is part of that timer is what failed. And we were able to get it replaced today and get it operation.
I did notice it was back up and running. Thank you for that. I kind of just curious, it's only been running for 3 months. Was that something, it's kind of a known failure point, or was it something just kind of out of the blue? Did something else cause that to happen?
Yeah, Mayor, Councilor Lammerman, it does cause me a little bit of concern because it is fairly new. And the fact that we modified the system to install a 24 volt electronic on-off valve. And the breaker is between a voltage regulator and that valve. And so I'm going to work with the plumber and be prepared. Maybe we need to look for, it'll probably be a much more expensive valve, but one that operates on 120 volts instead of 24. And then we wouldn't need to use that breaker system. So I'm mindful, and I share the same concerns that you have, that we need to make sure that its longevity is longer than 3 months.
So was that change something that was part of the initial design concept, or was that after the preliminary design and the spec of everything?
Mayor, Councilor, yes. So when we originally purchased the splash pad system, it was a recirculating, we had a tank, it would recirculate. It was designed to recirculate and treat with chemicals the water. When we went to, I engaged with some firms to get prices on being able to operate that equipment. We learned at that time, to my big surprise, that the Oregon Health Authority, this splash pad is governed under the Oregon Health Authority if you recirculate and treat the water. And so therefore you need to have them approve the design. And there's certain criteria. It's treated just like a swim pool. You have to have showers on site so the kids can rinse to begin, rinse afterwards. So essentially what we did is modified and stuck we're not using that system right now. We're working with the Oregon Health Authority to find out how we can meet their requirements with a on-site shower and be able to incorporate what they need so that we can move forward. So right now we've modified the system and installed this electronic valve, and we're using city water to run the splash pad.
So that leads to another question. How many gallons of water are we using per month so far? I mean, it varies definitely because it's only operational above a certain temperature. Certain days are only going to hit that. Do we kind of have an idea of how many gallons we've used so far?
So, Counselor, it uses approximately 100 gallons a minute when it's operational. If it ran nonstop from 10 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, it was 66,000 gallons that day. That's a lot of water. I'm motivated to find a way to get this, meet the Oregon Health Authority's regulations so that we can use the equipment that we originally bought. But I didn't want to build a splash pad and not use it the first year because we had to do modifications. There's no permits needed from the Oregon Health Authority to operate it. So we're able to have our kids enjoy it, and having it shut down for about 4 days during some of the hottest weather that we've had signifies by the number of requests on Facebook and everywhere else. Why isn't our splash pad working? Shows how much it's enjoyed and used in our community.
Thank you. Counselor Wilson?
Just as a follow-up, the Oregon Health, their permit process, once if they come up with a plan, what is the cost of the permit process and offsetting the cost of the use of water? Just for transparency purposes, where are we saving ourselves in this? Definitely we're saving ourselves in the short term because we have like satisfaction as a factor in there. But what would the cost of the permit if we had been able to meet the criteria initially? What was that cost?
Mayor, Councilor Wilson, so the permit and plan review from Oregon Health Authority was $1,000. We actually paid that permit. We're still in that process. The estimate or the quote I got for a private company to essentially monitor the chlorination process was $4,000 a month. It's 7 days a week. We have to take tests, a minimum of 2 times a day. And so it's very expensive to hire a third party. And our staff at the present time is not qualified. And quite frankly, I'm not sure that they would have the time to manage this live fab. So in essence, the 66,000 gallons a day, if you take the cost at $1.70 something right now per 1,000 gallons, it's actually less expensive to use city water than it would be to pay somebody to come in and essentially provide the oversight and operation of the chlorination system.
Thank you.
Counselor Urban.
Having just experienced a few splash pads across the country, ours, at the way it is one of the best. The one in the Dowels was pretty nice, but it was chlorinated and it was like odorous and not that pleasant to end very long. One in Aurora, Colorado was freezing. So I really appreciated, maybe that's the way to save water, but it was, the temperature of the water coming out of this one was optimal. You could play in it all you wanted. It's perfect for environment. So I appreciated that.
It's not for adults, Counselor.
No, we were just.
Okay, Counselor Sedermeyer.
Uh-oh, I didn't. It's wonderful when you're riding bike around one of these days and just kind of get to stop by there. I just want to say thank you for your efforts to try and jump through these hurdles. I would almost think that if there's some way to communicate that, if we want to share that expense with people in the community, just I'm sure it doesn't work very well to kind of have something there to add money to, but I think that there could be something like a celebration where we try and ask the community to come and chip in, at the beginning or at the end of a season or something like that.
We've
Because
talked
it's
about,
definitely a gem.
we've talked about an adult splash pad party. But we're not sure how well that would be. Counselor Mary Day.
Thank you, Mayor. So I very much appreciate the council and the mayor of supporting the Darrell Burleson trail. I believe that will be an asset to our community in the future. There'll be an interpretive kiosk added along the trail, which he used as his training route from his home up on Highway 99. I also wanted to alert you to a few events. On Thursday, the Lane County Health Center will be having an open house from 9 to 12. So you can drop in and see all the things that are being offered to our community there. Friday, I believe you all received an email inviting you to the dedication of the Goose mural at the splash pad. Speaking of splash pads, this was about a 2-year process to get this mural done. I was a member of the mural committee. One of the things we used to raise money was selling Goose shirts and buttons and prints and other things. And it was quite an effort to get one little mural done. It's now going to be dedicated this Friday during Art Walk at 7 p.m. with great circumstance. And I encourage you all to come, members of the public, and experience the enthusiasm of unveiling a mural new to town and imagining dedicating a whole slew of them as a result of the Wall Dogs. So you can kind of get a taste of the buzz of what it feels like to see, wow, we've got a new treasure in town.
And it's beautiful. Counselor Lammerman.
That reminds me, so 2 things real quick. The mural committee, are they going to be involved with the murals that the Wall Dogs are going to be putting up?
I would imagine. We have not even been assigned a project manager yet from the Wall Dogs. So as soon as the Wall Dogs figures out who's going to be their project manager, I've heard whispers through them who it is, but it's not official yet. But they have a whole way that they do it, and they are a fine oiled machine. They've been doing it for almost 40 years. And so they are very community oriented, making sure that everything is historically correct. And so they will help us work through this whole project. And so I have absolute faith in that group of artists. They are amazing. And every single one of their projects over the years has been a complete success. Even if you read anything online of what they're saying in the posts, it brings in millions of dollars in tourism every year. It is an amazing, they know what they're doing. So I have absolute faith. So to answer that question, I would assume that the whole community is going to be involved. Director Stewart.
Yeah, Mayor, so Councilor Lammerman, we have a member in this community that actually took time and drove over there and spoke with the principals in the Dalles. And he supplied myself and the mayor with a really nice 1-inch thick binder, and I was able to find the time to work through it this last week. And it's a detailed plan of what the Dalles did, and you're exactly right. It's forming multiple committees actually with different disciplines, hospitality, wall preparation, a committee to review. They had to, I don't know how many proposals they had, but they had to narrow it down to the select few that they had. So I'm pretty sure that the mayor and the city manager and those involved will get to take great benefit from this individual's research, because it's pretty detailed and will lay the path for this to be very successful.
Last question. Back to the splash pad. Sorry. So you stated, Mr. Stewart, the splash pad uses right about 66,000 gallons of water a day. Over a 15-day period, that's 10,000 gallons, under 1 million gallons of water. I don't recall seeing anywhere in the budget process any sort of line item covering water usage for the splash pad. How is that amount of water being compensated for in regards to the treatment of the water, running it back to the sewage department? Because that's over the course of a season, I would imagine it would probably be going more than 15 days out of the spring and summer and fall time, roughly. So how are we offsetting that amount of water for now? Let's just say for the first season.
Mayor, Councilor Lammerman, so we treat it just the same as we do all city parks, the city hall, the armory, the community center. We don't charge ourselves for water. It's just part of the process of treating water and supplying it for these facilities within the city. At the present time, we don't figure out how much water consumption there is and the cost and allocate it out. It's just part of the city doing business.
Yeah, my biggest concern there is just the additional cost of the chemicals to treat the water, the additional cost of treating it when it comes back as gray water. But I don't know if any of that was thought about when it came budget time, or if we're going to be looking at next budget cycle having an additional $600,000, or just rough ballpark, additional cost for chemicals, because we're putting out 1 million gallons every 2 weeks at the splash pad.
Mayor, Councilman, I'll have to do some research and find out what the actual cost is to the city for us to operate that. I'll work with our water treatment plant operator to find out. So I'm pretty sure that there's very little of anything that's a consequence at the wastewater treatment plant. It's basically, this water is probably cleaner than what they release. So I'll do the research and let you know what those additional costs are, if they are, and what they would be for that. I would just share with you that, Bohemian Park probably utilizes, I've seen several $1 million or 1 million gallons of water, sprinkling the 14 acres. And like I said, those are just factored in as doing business, so that we haven't zeroed down to exactly what those costs are for those parts. But I'll certainly do the research.
Yeah, I apologize for asking all these questions, but a lot of the stuff for the splash pad and whatnot preceded me coming onto this, so I didn't get to ask some of those questions. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Just to follow up on what Faye said, this really gets factored into the city's business model for how we operate all of our facilities and all of our parks. So rather than singling out, one particular facility, if you would like, if council's interested as a group, as part of next year's budget process, when we talk about our water and sewer system, we can certainly try to bifurcate out city facilities. But understand, it's not just the splash pad. It's City Hall. It's the community center. As Faye said, it's the parks. So, I'll kind of wait for any kind of direction that we get from the entire council on that as we work into the budget process. But that's certainly something that we can do is we can, have, how much water is utilized by all city facilities. Because again, it's not something that we charge for. We don't charge ourselves for our own utilities. I'm not aware of any cities that do.
Thank you. Councilor Merida.
Is Director Stewart, there also is the plan to direct the city affluent to eventually irrigate Bohemia Park and possibly other city parks?
Councilor Merida, that is correct. We are probably within 1,500 feet of making that connection with the affluent down to Bohemia Park and Trailhead. And so it's the intent that we will be irrigating those. Probably not going to get it done for this summer season, but we fully intend on having it operational for next year, so that we're using the affluent instead of treated drinking water for those two parks. And then as we have resources, we'd like to expand it to Winter Park, potentially down to Kellyville and other places to essentially claw back not using treated drinking water to grow grass.
Councilor Stottlemyre.
Is it okay to do a different topic? Okay, thanks. I'll try and be quick. I had an opportunity recently to witness a really nice support of some South Lane School District employees by some people involved with their administration and stuff. And I was just thinking it would be really cool for us as a council or some of you that would like to work with me if we should do it separate. But I'm not supposed to send out messages to all of you, so I'm bringing this up now. Anybody who would like to work towards some kind of ways that we can support city workers on a quarterly basis or come up with whatever it is. Hint, food, if it works, is something on the table. And I would like to, contact Mr. Stewart in the beginning of this, but is there any other counselors that would like to work with that? Or is it something we want to do a subcommittee, and does the whole council want to support that?
Sir.
Mayor, can you paint more of a picture of what you're thinking?
When there are teacher appreciation weeks, there are people involved in the administration of the school district that go out and are doing things for the teachers. Like I say, food is often things, but that's just my go-to. Is there something we could do on certain times? I mean, I'm terrible at this part. I'm just saying us doing something to show appreciation and perhaps in more than words, so that we know how important the workers that choose to stay to help us out every day. I will say I did tie this to a certain person who was leaving who knows a lot about the ups and downs that city workers face in how things go in their work and stuff. And I know that she thought at least that we would benefit and they would benefit from us doing something maybe not so clear.
If I could make a suggestion, we have all city staff meetings every 2 months, and at a recent all city staff meeting, just to show all the folks who work here that we appreciate them, the leadership team made up of our management folks actually cooked breakfast and served breakfast to the entire city staff. That other than the leadership team, we got to eat too. One thing I've seen done in other cities is for the city council to put on an annual barbecue for city staff, and city council members are out there flipping burgers and, providing food for city staff, just as a way for council to show, hey, you guys really do appreciate all the stuff we do. So that seems to be the direction that you were leading with. As I said, that's just an example that I've seen other communities do.
I would be willing to flip burgers. Counselor Lammerman.
I don't necessarily, I appreciate the sentiment, Mr. Settlemeyer. But at the same time, I don't necessarily want to be mean either, but they don't work for us. They work for Mr. Stewart. They work for Mike Sauerwein. They're their bosses. We're here on behalf of the people of the community. I don't necessarily, I don't know how else to say thank you to the city staff other than just saying thank you. I mean, they're paid for a job. They do their job, hopefully. It's not our, as a council member, it's not my responsibility to pat them on the back and say thank you for doing your job. I don't necessarily want to be rude, but that's their job. That's their bosses. If they want to have a barbecue for them, let them have a barbecue.
Counselor Sotomayor.
I feel I represent a lot of people in our community when I say, if I can lead some kind of positive experience to show that we are behind saying thank you in not just words, that it's worth my effort. And that's why I said, I don't mind doing this. I plan on doing this as a council member, but this is the only time I have to talk with all of you to find out who else. And I hear we have a burger flipper if it gets to there. And if that's where we want to end it, then I will talk to Candace if it gets to, well, no, I'll be there. Yeah. So if anybody else is interested in being a part of that, and then I would reach out if it's the appropriate number of counselors to see what their input is. So does anybody but Dana and Candace want to know what I am going to do beyond this? Great. Oh, shoot, there's 4. No, I'm not going to tell you till the end.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so now there's 3.
Surprise appearance.
Okay, and if Christine wants to, we'll figure out that hurdle when we get to it.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
All right. And let's move on to business from the city manager.
Well, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. Faye, did you have stuff you wanted to add?
Thank you, Mr. Sauerwein. I just wanted to share 3 things. We've talked about the splash pad extensively. Short is that we resolve the situation, it was operational. Fingers crossed it'll stay operational until the end of the season. And you didn't know what you didn't know when we first started the splash pad. But what's amazing is how well it's been received. in the community. As it's been said, you just drive by there and see the smiley faces and the folks that are enjoying it, and hear people that just drive by there just to get to see those kids at the time. So we'll do our best to keep it up and operational through the season and try to fix anything so we'll do that. The second is I don't know if you've noticed, but on today, the Wildish finished paving the connections down at 8th Street to 8th Street, and then the paving connection to Main Street that gets back towards 9th Street. So essentially, all the hard surface work on the south side of the street is completed. There's still light poles, plantings, a lot of irrigation work to do, and of course, adding the benches, trash receptacles, various different things. But the actual really disturbing construction portion is done on the south side, and they've already started pouring the curbs in front of City Hall. I believe tomorrow they're going to pour some sidewalks and then start working right on down the north. So I'm cautiously optimistic that it's going to move quicker now because they're in a groove and know what they need to do. And so weather permitting, we should be well done before the end of the year and be able to enjoy this wonderful project. And lastly, I wanted to share with you, in case you weren't around, I just drove this morning. Most of us were probably woke up and up about 5 o'clock. 6 o'clock was really loud at my house, of course. But in case you didn't know, we had several lightning strikes that hit down the road. We had a tree that was hit down at Neuer in 99. It was damaged severely, and the power company mobilized a tree removal crew to get it down late this afternoon. So the lightning hit the top of the tree and went right on down the Douglas fir tree to the base and compromised the base that would have potentially sent it over their power line. So they mobilized and got that done. The other one that's notable to go look at, if you're at all interested, is the corner of 10th and Main. For those of us that grew up here and went to school at the old high school, Mr. Taylor mentioned there was at that time a rather large Sequoia redwood, but it is huge now, but unfortunately is not in very good shape. It actually blew the top out of that tree and split it considerably down the base of it. So unfortunately, that tree probably going to need to come out. But and there was a couple reported small fires that were started in the vicinity around our town. So hopefully those are being addressed and they don't become a big problem. But yeah, this morning was all hands on deck, and folks, luckily we are scheduled tomorrow to work with a contractor to fix the potholes in front of the Harrison at that intersection of 10th and Taylor. And luckily they weren't out there working, doing that work when this happened, because it probably would not have been good for the employees. Somebody's watching over us, and but anyway, I just thought I'd share those 3 items to the community. Councilor Meriday has already plugged the mural, but there will be an exciting evening to be able to dedicate that Blue Goose to the community. Thank all the folks that worked hard and funded that effort.
It's great.
Well, good evening again, Your Honor, members of the council. Just a couple quick items. First, I want to follow up on Mr. Boyd's comments back at the July 14th City Council meeting. You'll recall he brought some alleyway maps in his neighborhood and expressed concerns about ongoing issues in the area, blocking trees, automobiles, and other brush that was blocking the alleyway. Just to let you know that city staff has conducted a couple of site visits out to the alleyway in question. We have sent out the first letter.
Mr. Sarwin, can you talk into the mic?
I'm sorry. We have, staff has conducted two site visits to the alleyways in question. And staff has also sent out our first letters of enforcement. You know, the way the process works is the first letter of enforcement is a request for voluntary compliance. And the folks have until September 5th to voluntarily comply and clean up the alleyway. If they don't, then we can proceed to the next level of enforcement. The other item that I wanted to bring up this evening is, as you're all aware, Councilmember Hank was not here this evening. I spoke with her over the weekend. She has been having some health challenges, and those health challenges may cause her to miss several city council meetings. In your charter, it states that if a council member is absent from meetings without the leave of the council for 60 days, that their position becomes vacant. Staff would recommend that you grant a leave of indeterminate time length to the council member while she's dealing with some issues. And it's my sincere hope that I wish her a speedy recovery.
Councilor Urban.
Thank you, Mayor. Would that be needed to be made in the form of a motion?
Yes, you would need to take formal action to excuse her from council meetings for an indeterminate amount of time.
Yeah, I'd like to make that motion that the council excuse Councilor Hunt for an indeterminate amount of time while she handles her health issues.
I second it.
We have a motion with a second. Any discussion? Councilor Lammerman.
I don't necessarily want to be insensitive, but can we kind of narrow the scope a little bit to maybe make it like 4 months, 6 months? Because if it does go on for, it could very well go on for a fairly prolific amount of time.
I certainly understand that concern. I wonder if there's any, I mean, we could sunset it essentially at 6 months.
You can always just revisit
And-
as well.
yeah, anytime. I guess I'd prefer to leave it indeterminate, and then, but if new information arises, indicates to us, hey, this is gonna be an issue. I tend to think that she would say, hey. So, from my understanding, she's wanting to get back on the procedure.
Councilor Merryday.
I would like to offer a friendly amendment that we also send our well wishes as a council.
Friendly amendment accepted.
And seconded if that is what you do.
Well, if there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you.
And that would conclude my report, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Sauerwein. Business from the city attorney.
Thank you. First and foremost, I just want to thank this community for that beautiful symphony that my firm enjoyed thoroughly, and I did not have the opportunity to say in advance we would be there, but we were. Great job directing. And so thank you for that annual event. And then second, I've reported, I think at least twice on the Oregon Government Ethics Commission decision that was issued in May with regard to food and beverage. It's kind of timely to revisit that again, given what we were just talking about. I promise I will work with staff to ensure that not only are public meetings laws complied with, but also government ethics laws are complied with regard to staff receiving any food and beverage from the city or from counselors. When I last reported, the May opinion had come out. It said nobody can enjoy food and beverage unless it has been adopted and granted as part of official compensation. And I was personally promised a follow-up opinion from the executive director, who thought we had a great idea on how to get from A to B. Apparently in July, that follow-up opinion ran into trouble with DOJ. So they are continuing at loggerheads at this point, given that it's late August. My hopes are dimming, I'll just say. I don't know that we're going to get a follow-up opinion, so I'd kind of put the matter on hold, but I believe it's time to pick it back up with staff, figure out what your city policies are, and see if we need to, what other actions do we need to recommend, either for council action or for at the department level. So I will be following up on that. I just wanted to let you know, we've been waiting for a reason. I don't see a resolution.
But Carrie, that was just for public officials, not for staff, right?
Guess what? Public officials include electeds, appointeds, volunteers, paid employees.
Oh,
Everybody is a public
Okay.
official.
it's not understanding that correctly.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was gonna say. I
It's
can
a very
flip
broad
burgers, I just can't
definition.
eat them.
When I train you, I only talk about your rules.
Wow. Yes. All right. Great. Does that conclude?
That's the end of my
All right.
comments. Yes,
Thank
thanks.
you. Items removed from the consent agenda. There are none. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.